everyone, I am Santosh Ghimire, CEO and co-founder of Phunka Technologies. Today we will be discussing about REST API with Python. So, what is REST API? Let's begin with the full form. It stands for Representational State Transfer, and REST API is not a new concept. In fact, it is as old as the web itself. So, the concept of REST API has been among us since very long. So, why should we use REST instead of the other competitors like SOAP? Because REST API is a simple web service, and while using it, we do have so much of simplicity, and we can scale the application very quickly. So, in REST API, the client does not need to, the server doesn't need to know so much of information about the client. It is stateless. So, when the client sends message to the server does not keep any information of the client beforehand. And in REST API, the HTTP response is delivered in the form of JSON or XML. In REST API, we generally encounter these four must-use verbs. They are create, put, post, and delete. Get method is simply for obtaining list of objects or objects from the API. Put is for updating or creating new objects. Similarly, post is also for creating new objects, and delete is for deleting new objects. So there is one saying about REST API. Develop your API RESTful and go to base. If you develop your REST API, then you won't have many confusions afterwards. So since today is Python Meetup, let's iterate to Python. So how can we develop REST API with Python? So in Python, we need to use different web frameworks for developing REST API. There are various web frameworks like Django, Rest, Tornado, Pyramid, and we'll be talking about developing REST API with Django today. So for developing REST API, there are various libraries already. Django Rest Framework is one very popular library for developing REST API. Similarly, there is Testify and REStless and RESTless. RESTless is one generic kind of library which can be used with different Python web frameworks. Today we will be talking about Django Rest Framework. Okay. So why Django Rest Framework? It is a simple package for Django with backed by very active Python community developers. The documentation is very simple, and implementing Django Rest Framework is extremely easy. So it has views authentication in utilities that can be implemented in a matter of minutes in your web application, and it is also highly configurable in terms of security and other parameters. So installation. Quick install Django Rest Framework, that's it. We need to put it in install labs, and then we are ready to go. So the basic elements of Django Rest Framework. There are serializers used in URLs. So serializers are something like forms in Django. Forms are model forms, which provides us the source of data to the source of data, and then there is views. In views, the basic task that the view set provided by Django Rest Framework does is it translates the complex query set into native Python object, which can be rendered into JSON or XML. And then there is URL. So here is a basic example of serializers. So in this sample application, I have created two classes, book and author. So the class book contains these fields: name, price, category, and URL. And similarly, author contains three fields: name, creation, and URL. So this is the serializer for book and author. This is we need to import serializer from REST framework and then provide the name of the model that acts as the data source, and then the selected fields which we need to represent it in the API. So there are different kinds of serializers that REST framework provides. One is the serializer, and there is modal serializer. With over here we have used hyperlink modal serializer. What this does is it provides the relation between the objects in the form of URL or hyperlink. So views. In views we need to use those serializers in order to render the API, result of the API. So we have something called view sets in Django Rest Framework. So we have something called view set in Django Rest Framework, which is a view for a collection of views. That is like a set of views. So with modal view set, we can directly hook up to the modal serializer, and over here in book view set, what we need to specify is we need to specify the query set, the data source of the API, and then the serializer class that we created earlier. Same for the author view set. And other thing is that we can implement permissions in the API. So if we want only anonymous, if we want to create a meeting or use the API, then simply we don't write any permission code. Otherwise we specify the permission classes. There are different types of permission classes like auth, is authenticated or read-only. Different types of permission classes. So we can choose any one of them based on the requirements. So the next step is setting up URL for the API. So in URL, Django Rest Framework provides routers, something called routers, which the basic task of router is to automatically route the URL of REST framework of the API into Django. So over here we have to register a default router and then register our view sets. So there were two view sets, book view set and author view set. After registering that, we just provide a custom URL for the REST framework, and then we are ready to go. So after implementing these three steps, serializers, views, and URL, what we get? We get something like this. This is the interface of Django Rest Framework, where we can see the available APIs. So there is it's for books and authors. So since we have not added any data, it shows empty. This is the options for books, which shows the parsers for the API, and then the format it renders the API. So if we add some stuff into the book list, we can do it by post method right from the interface. So the other thing is CSR protection, cross-site request forgery. This is one serious vulnerability in applications, and if not handled properly, it can be a fatal problem. So in order to handle the CSRF attack, we need to ensure that HTTP safe operations like get, head options, they cannot alter the server-side state. And unchecked HTTP operations, which such as write-intensive operations like post, push, put, patch and delete, they always require a CSRF token. So when the client sends the request, it includes something called CSRF token, and then the server checks the token, and if it validates, then it proceeds it. So we can also set permissions globally for all of the APIs in application. So for that we need to set a variable called REST framework default permission classes in the settings file. So is authenticated or read only. If you do this, then anonymous user can view the API, but they cannot change anything with post or put request or delete request. So let's see some of the API based practices, what to do and what not to do while using an API. So versioning. While creating an API, the client is generally not updated if the server upgrades the version. Suppose the server is implementing version 1 of the API, and if it implements version 2 API in the same URL, then client will get confused since it doesn't do. So we need to handle the versioning by URL like this. In the URL, we need to specify the version explicitly so that there will be no confusion in case of upgrading. And documentation. Before writing any documentation, the API should be well planned, well thought of, and then we should always write documentation before coding, so that it will be easy for fellow developers. So testing. When a person creates an API on behalf of a company or something, the person may not be associated with the company forever. So when our new programmer, new employee takes place, then you need to know everything about the API. So this can be achieved with the help of testing. We need to write test case for each API, and unit testing. While running unit testing, if the test case passes, then we know that the API works. So there is a simple testing for the API that I showed earlier. The class book test case, we create a book and then we check the response. If the first object in that response is exactly the same that we created earlier. So this is about the ORM. So like MySQL, PostgreSQL, that is supported by Django ORM. What about non-ORM? Yes, Django Rest Framework Serializers also supports non-ORM data. For example, we have implemented REST API with Django Rest Framework with MongoDB as database in the Mero answer. So for that, we have used Mongo engine, and then the non-ORM data is moved up into the Serializers. So these are some of the links if you wish to explore more. Thank you. Any questions?